911 operators of Reddit. What were the most creative ways that people asked for help when they couldn't explicitly say it? One time I saw someone hitting his girlfriend in a major city and I dialed 911 3 times and no one ever answered. Eventually I found a security guard to help me break it up, but really disappointed in the dispatchers. That crap belongs on the news. Unless it gets public attention, nothing gets done. Not an operator, but a stepmother of a child who had a situation. Both skids lived with birth mum and her partner. The children used to cry and say they were scared of the mum and partner whenever they came to us for visits. We knew something was off. They always had dirty clothes and bruises explained away by their kids they play rough. Social said to us they had no real concerns nor school, so we just though our gut was wrong. It culminated 2 years ago. We've never had the full story of the situation as the children have no counseling or professional help to get it out of them. Me and husband are starting to save to go private. Anyway, youngest, boy aged 4 at the time, had found his mum's phone and dialed 911. We are in the UK and so blame too much American YouTube for his 911 thinking. Being 4 and having bad speech, now aware it was because he was never spoken to directly unless when with us. He only managed to say his sister was crying and the partner was being mean. He then put the phone down. I'm unaware if operators tried ringing back, but a while later officers arrived at their home and found the mum's partner banging the 6-year-old's head against the stairs and yelling for talking too much. They came to our custody from that point. If it hadn't been for our now 6-year-old, I swear both children would likely be dead by now. And if it hadn't been a thing that foreign emergency numbers are directed to that country's service, we would never have got the proof needed to get the children out of there to live a normal life. Now to get them help for what they went through. I work as a SO in LA. Depending on what county you are in, you can text into 911. Some guy was reporting a drunk driver through texts. I was dumbfounded at first and thought to myself, why didn't they just call it in? Not illegal to make a 911 call while driving, since everyone always calls in drunk drivers. Then at the very end of the text he states he is mute. I felt like a jerk, but then again that was my first experience with that. Not really a creative way, but a necessary one, I guess. This made national news. A woman and her children were being held captive in their home by some unknown person. The mother convinced the captor, S, to let her order pizza online to feed her starving children. Needless to say, in the online system, in special instructions she quickly wrote something along the lines of help, need 911, being held captive, bring help ASAP. Sure enough, the police showed up heavily armed and the captor or captors are in jail now. I had a friend that was being followed by another car late at night. She ended up helping the police catch the serial rapist murderer by doing 65 in a 40 and catching the cops' attention. My mom was a 911 dispatcher in 90s and early 2000s. She got a call and though no one was talking, she heard a distinct gargling sound. She remembers thinking, that sounds like someone coughing up blood. A man was carjacked, stabbed in the stomach. When the carjackers got scared, they left him to bleed out in his car. She did everything she could to figure out where he was. He could hardly speak, but at one point, he yells out, "Taco Bell." Familiar with the area, my mom starts listing all of the cross streets of Taco Bells that she knows of. Eventually, he yells in response to one of them. She sends police there and they find him, but by the time they get there he had died. Dispatchers have a hard job, and often no one to talk to. I was way too young when my mom told me that story. It still fricks me up thinking about it. As a former 911 dispatcher, I never had someone call for pizza or anything else like that. Heard a man kill himself because he found out he had cancer. Went out back and told us to come get him before his wife could see and shot himself so she wouldn't have a mess to clean up. The hard calls suck. Babies that are found blue and mothers are hysterical. Teens finding a body in an alley. It wears on a person. However, 911 dispatchers are not considered first responders in some states and don't get first responder benefits even though they are truly the first responders and dispatch help. Contact your senators and help these brave men and women that do this job. On a lighter note, 2 funny stories. Had a drunk guy call 911 because McDonald's forgot his cheeseburger. Proceeded to call back a few times to report it as theft. Sent an officer out and turns out he had went to McDonald's a few days before and was so drunk that when he found the receipt, he thought he didn't get his order. Another was we had a lady that habitually got hot dogs stuck up in her biscuit. Probably happened about 4 times while I worked at that 911 facility. You'd think she switched to something more sturdy. My daughter had a deal where she thought she was in a dangerous situation in the middle of the night at our house. She called 911 and couldn't identify why she was scared. They told her to open her garage door and that the police could then easily do a stop, inquiring about the open garage door. She did, and the police subsequently rang the doorbell and did a check. I am not a 911 operator, but I think I'll just share my story. It is quite hard and painful to explain, but I'll try my best. I was 15 when it happened. This was 5 or 6 years ago. My mom sent me to the grocery store to buy her some stuff for the house, and we would always hear some stories about some new freak roaming around our neighborhood. So my mom told me to take my phone with me just in case. So I went, bought everything we needed, and poor little me decided to go back home through another small road alley thinking it was safer. But that dong was following me the whole time, and as I was passing by a little house he took his and then violates me. I can't tell anything about that, but he ended up going outside to smoke while I was crying on the floor, and that was my chance. I pulled my phone out the grocery bag without him noticing. I turned the volume down and called the police and start whispering the name of my village and describing where I was repeatedly. Close my phone and put it back in the grocery bag and pretend to stay where I was. Then 5 minutes and 5 or 6 cigs later he goes back in and says, "Wanna go for second round?" And as I beg him not to, police pulls in. He turned out to be a guy who escaped from a mental asylum hospital. Sorry if triggered anyone. It's been almost 6 years, but I still cry about this if I just think about it. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I am so grateful to your rescuers and I am proud of your bravery. Stay strong, fellow survivor. Your life is what you do and what you choose, not what happens to you that you can't control. I took a call in which someone was having an extremely difficult time speaking. It appeared to be a medical reason. They were unable to get any understandable words out. Not wanting to waste any time, I air it with the general location of my mapping. He sounds scared. I look up his phone number and find nothing. Cross-check the address on the mapping. Can't tell if it's good. Try to get a name from him and it doesn't sound like anything. I realize the caller is coherent enough to answer yes and no, so I start to confirm the address. Is the first number in your address 1? Caller: ah. Is the second number in your address 1? Caller: nah. Is it 2? Caller: nah. And so on. It took painstakingly long. Couple times I had to repeat because I couldn't tell if he had said yes or no between the gurgling noises. At one point he seemed to lose consciousness for over a minute. It was dead air and what sounded like agonal breathing. Meanwhile, our deputy and ambulance have checked the address on the map and next door. No success. They have started going door to door, and then to my great relief he somehow regains consciousness. I get the last 2 digits, which are 2 blocks away from our mapping in a populated area. Our units are immediately updated. I finally hear my deputy talking to him. We had found him. He was a veteran and had attempted suicide but had immediately regretted it. The bullet path went through his face, making it almost impossible to communicate. Obligatory, not an operator, but I looked up this transcript because it was the chillest I've ever read. I had a call that started out pretty dumb, but was actually pretty serious. 911. Where is your emergency? 123 Main Street. Okay, what's going on there? I'd like to order a pizza for delivery. Oh great, another prank call. Mom, you've reached 911. Yeah, I know. Can I have a large with half pepperoni, half mushroom and peppers? I'm sorry, you know you've called 911 right? Yeah. Do you know how long it will be? Okay. Mom, is everything okay over there? Do you have an emergency? Yes, I do. And you can't talk about it because there's someone in the room with you. Moment of realization. Yes, that's correct. Do you know how long it will be? I have an officer about a mile from your location. Are there any weapons in your house? Nope. Can you stay on the phone with me? Nope. See you soon. Thanks. As we dispatch the call, I check the history at the address and see there are multiple previous domestic violence calls. The officer arrives and finds a couple. Female was kind of banged up and boyfriend was drunk. Officer arrests him after she explains that the boyfriend had been beating her for a while. I thought she was pretty clever to use that trick. Definitely one of the most memorable calls. I hope she's okay now. I saw a video where a girl convinced her crazy abusive boyfriend that their dog was sick and needed to go to the vet. She then passed a note to the girls at the vet office front desk that her boyfriend had a gun and was threatening her. They secretly called the cops and the vet tech and nurse told them they were running behind, so just wait in the exam room please. And then cops showed up and arrested him. It was a pretty smart way to get help without alerting him. In France we have two numbers. One is the 112, which is a vocal phone call, but there's also 114, which is for deaf people, where you text. In the big terrorist attacks of Bataclan, someone texted 114 under a pile of dead bodies to not get caught. We had a caller a few years ago who sounded like she was gagged, screaming and yelling, but you couldn't make out any words. She kept hanging up and calling back. We knew something was wrong but couldn't narrow down a location. We had maybe a 50-meter radius in an urban area. Unfortunately, location coordinates on a cell phone to 911 aren't nearly as accurate as an app like Uber. One of my coworkers was able to get her to push the numbers of the address on her keypad, and then he was able to distinguish possibilities by the tone of the sound. They found her on the second address they checked. She had tried to shoot herself in the head and missed, so she ended up shooting her jaw off. Obligatory, not an operator, but I was on the other end of the line. My boyfriend at the time had gotten suicidal and was scaring me with his panic attacks and threats. I suggested I Google some coping mechanisms for panic attacks and texted my boss telling him to get 911 to my address. The boyfriend always said if I called 911 he would hurt himself or me, so doing that got them there without him knowing. Not an operator, but if you can, dial 911 discreetly and leave the line open. Barring any kinds of buttholes on the other end that aren't doing their job as they should, you will get help, especially if there are noises to indicate an emergency. As a kid, I was at some camp my parents sent me to. One kid decided to be a wise guy and call 911 from the camp's payphone. A rare sight even then, and just not hang up, walking away leaving the phone hanging. 3 cop cars showed up about 7 minutes later. Sometimes, if you can get the line open, not saying anything gets the message across better than trying to talk in code. Obligatory, not a 911 operator, but I've worked for several non-profits in different types of shelters. A group I used to work with had business cards that looked like a nail salon's card, but the number went to our domestic abuse hotline. That way women could take the card and keep it without fear of angering their abusers if they should find it. It always struck me as pure genius. I'm actually a 911 operator, and I've only gotten one call like this. The woman was being taken by her ex-boyfriend out into the forest. She acted like she was talking to her mom, and I was able to get her location with some programs that we use. Mostly yes or no questions, but still able to get a general truck description and direction of travel, as well as constantly updating the location in my system. Guy had a weapon on him and she thought he was going to the woods to kill her. Luckily I was able to stay on the phone until deputies caught up with them. As anticlimactic as it is, I don't have the outcome of the case. We don't always get the end of the story. Well dang. Here's the obligatory thanks for the platinum whoever you are. And also a cliche, I'm just doing my job. Also want to add, if you call 911 and have an emergency and it all works out well and you get the help you need, you can call back on the non-emergency line of your area and ask to speak to the operator if they're free. As stated above, we don't get the end of the story most of the time. It's nice for us to hear from the people we are able to help. They would sometimes act like they were ordering a pizza. It was always pretty obvious to what they were doing. I mean, who orders pork for a topping with extra helpings? I've heard of this before actually. It really is the best way to do it if the other person doesn't know better. They didn't say it at first, but they did. As soon as the line dropped to me, him, IT's in my butt, me, what, where are you calling from? Him, it's in my butt man, me, What is the problem? Him. It's in a baggie in my butt. I can't get it out. It's a baggie of H. He hid a bag so the police that were talking to him earlier didn't find it. He gave his address, which was the same as what his location was showing. He stayed on the phone while he got it out and flushed it while on the phone just as the officer was arriving. Since it was technically a medical issue, I put as the additional H stuck in rectum so when the text pages go out, that's what it would say. I play this game on the Switch called 911 Operator, which uses real life calls and sees how we will handle it. Seems like I am a good dispatcher, though the vehicle part gets messed up. I've got that on Switch. I felt a bit creepy at first, like it was going to be exploitative. Didn't realize it was using actual real calls until I got it, but as I got into it I found it was really well done. I took call from a girl at about 5 AM on a college campus who was studying, and a homeless male came into the area and started moving closer and closer to her. She called our non-emergency line, and when I answered, she just said, "Hey mom, I'm just studying," and thought I would say hi. It took me about a minute of confused questioning before I realized it and asked her, "Do you need the police, mom?" She said, "Oh absolutely," and proceeded to describe her view from the area, which gave me her exact location in the building. Officers arrived and arrested the male, who was a convicted diddler, physical assault, with a warrant for a bond condition violation. Not a good dude, and definitely no business being where he was, or alone with her. I really wish I had called that girl back and told her what a great job she did. I was so impressed that she remained so calm given how she later described things to the officer. For a lot of the spaces I work in, you need to scan your badge and put in a 4-digit code. When you type in your code, if you exchange the last number for one number higher, it will allow you to enter but also notify the police in case you were forced to go into a space unwillingly. When I lived in Chicago, I heard tires screeching and yelling, turned around, looked outside just in time to see 4 guys hop out of a car with blue bandanas around their face with guns drawn, shoot into a group of about 5-6 guys on a porch about 25 feet from them. They fired off probably 30-40 shots in 5 seconds, hopped back in the car and took off, called 911. They had an unmarked car with 4 burly cops show up in about 45 seconds. By that time, the victims actually ran inside. It looked like only one of them got shot in the leg, possibly a graze. Cops came out, guns drawn. Nobody was on the street. They found the casings on the ground, picked them up, looked around for about a minute, then drove off. When I called the police a day or 2 later and asked for follow-up, they said they had no record of this and no police report on file. That is how you keep crime numbers down, folks. I read this story about a woman who called 911 and acted like they were talking to a pizza place. It went something like, "Hello, can I have a large pizza? Mom, are you aware that you are calling 911, not a pizza place?" "Yes, I am." "Okay, are you in a situation where you can't let them know that you are calling 911? "Yes, that's right." "Okay, what's your location?" Then she gives them her location. Dang, that's smooth as eggs. Not a 911 operator, but my mom called me one night when I was out running the roads with some friends asking me if I could stop by real quick. Said she wanted to see me before I went back home. I was in college at the time and this was a weekend where me and some friends were out just cruising around the back roads. I could hear tension in her voice, so I knew something was up. So I told my friends something was going down, so we all rolled on over to her house. Her and her abusive boyfriend rolled up to find 5 dudes sitting on the hoods of their cars just waiting. I was holding a tire iron and another friend had his pistol out showing it off. Her boyfriend got out and took one look at us before turning on his heel and walking to his truck. He looked back at me as he opened his door and I twiddled my fingers at him. I wanted him to try something, but he didn't. He got in his truck and hauled butt out of there driving like a maniac. That was the last time he showed his face around there and the last time my mom ever saw him. And to the naysayers, yeah, this actually did happen. In 2006, I was 18 and it was my first semester in college. It happened in a small town in rural Louisiana. My apologies if you don't feel it's real enough for you. Can't please everyone. Username checks out. My apartment was burgled while I was home alone and the man was threatening me. I dialed 911 while he wasn't paying attention, looking around for a weapon, with the phone tucked into the back of my underwear, and he thought he heard a voice. 911 operator. I just started yelling at him and saying I didn't know him and he didn't belong in my apartment and saying over and over, are you sure this is where you're supposed to be? This is address at 207 inches, and I heard the operator verify the cops were on the way. I fought him out my front door and the cops caught him a block away jiggling every house's doorknobs. Bastard. I heard this story from a sergeant at the local police department when I was applying for my license to carry. A few years back, a woman was a victim of domestic violence with her live-in boyfriend. She called 911 and ordered a pizza, and when she'd asked her boyfriend what toppings he wanted, the operator heard him say, "I already told you pepperoni, you stupid bee." The operator asked if she was in danger and the woman replied, "Yes, extra." When the first responders arrived, she had some older bruises and some fresh ones. He was arrested immediately and taken into custody. Not sure if it was local or if he'd heard it from someone else, but it was pretty smart thinking. Kinda related. I took a 911 call for a woman with broken English. That's important. She was the front desk clerk at the local Howard Johnson. She said she was having trouble turning the water off to the coffee maker in the hotel lobby. Now, I've taken a lot of stupid calls over the years and this certainly was right up there. I'm getting annoyed when my supervisor reminds me that this could be something serious. This is it. This is my moment. Me. Mom, is there someone there threatening you? Can you not say anything that will get yourself harmed? Woman, I need help with the water. Me. So you need help. You feel threatened? Woman, yes, I need help with the water. I keep going back and forth with trying to get anything I can in the most discreet way I can think of. We have officers going lights and sirens from 2 jurisdictions. IT was intense. I'm going to be local news famous. No, internet famous. I'm such a hero right now. First officers get on scene. My co-worker is getting ready to issue a clear channel. Dispatch to officer. Yeah, she can't figure out how to turn the water off to the coffee maker. Me. You have to be freaking kidding me. My opportunity, my commendation, my fame, all gone. So gone. TLDR. Woman with broken English calls in on 911 complaining that she can't turn the water off on her coffee maker in the hotel lobby, and that was literally her problem. My friend is a dispatcher. He said a lady called asking for a pizza, saying, "Please, I'm hungry, get it here quick, I'll throw in an extra tip." Friend notified police because he could tell by the time of her voice. Turns out she was being abused and wasn't allowed to leave the house. I've had people call and pretend they were having a conversation with their mom until they were able to get to another room where they could speak freely. That person was far more helpful than the people who just call 911, scream out an address, and then yell just get them here instead of giving any details on why they're calling. 911 dispatcher here. I don't have a story relevant to this particular topic. In my almost 1 month to go, 4 years of dispatching, I've never had anyone get creative with asking for help. I did talk to a lady whose boyfriend had just beaten the crap out of her call me. He was in the same room as her but was passed out drunk. I still just asked her yes or no questions so she wouldn't be talking too much and have him wake up. And once I had all the info I needed, I kept her on the line but didn't have her speak anymore. It's nice to see a job that is so seldom thought about mentioned on Reddit. And every time I see a 911 dispatcher's thread on here, I try to jump in and add some of my personal touch to it. This job is tied with the one I've had the longest, and even when the point comes that I am no longer a dispatcher, I'm going to think about it every day. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.